Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. And our top stories today, we'll take a look at the FIRE movement and see how these individuals are responding to the market volatility and who gets stimulus checks. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Alessandra Melito. She's the retirement reporter for Dow Jones Market Watch. Allie, welcome back to the program. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. So before we kind of launch into our topics today, I want to check in with you, your family, and also the team at Market Watch to see how you're doing in terms of this telecommuting and the social distancing.
Yeah, everything's been pretty good. Just working nonstop. There have been so many articles to write, so I'm definitely keeping myself busy while we are stuck at home.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are in that. It's nice not having to commute. At the same time, it'd be nice to work with coworkers in the office. So hopefully we get back to some normalcy in the next 30 to 60 days. So in this first segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the FIRE movement. And this was very popular, Allie, up until this recent dip in the markets and volatility. I want to get your perspective because this is something that I know you have covered. You and the team at Market Watch have covered extensively. So how do you see things kind of shaping up now for FIRE?
Yeah, so a lot of people have been giving the FIRE movement folks a lot of trouble lately because they're saying, oh, look, your plan's definitely not going to, follow through now, what with the market volatility and, drops and things like that. The truth of the matter is for some people that might be true. Mm-hmm. Some people who are pursuing the financial independence, retire early, dream, they may have to put all of their dreams on hold, especially if they are just starting out. But that doesn't mean that they'll never do it. It just means that, they're going to have to adjust their plans a little bit. For a lot of the people that have already retired early, I have spoken to them about this in the past, and they said that, they're on track, they're fine. And it's not necessarily that the FIRE movement will disappear. It's more so that the FIRE movement will just have to change the way it looks. Right now, when you think of the FIRE movement, you think of people who are living extremely frugally, putting every penny that they can into the stock market, investing 100% in equities, and then retiring in, 5-10 years. But we don't have a bull market that, is just a straight shot anymore. We don't know how long the market volatility will last. We don't know what it'll look like. We don't know I don't think anything will look like in the next month or two. So people will just have to they might have to change some plans, especially if they involve travel, but they will definitely have to change the way that their portfolio looks. How exactly they will, I'm not entirely sure. That's something based on their income and their new goals and their risk tolerance and stuff like that. But yeah, it just the process will change a little bit.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. And I think there's actually two groups, right? There's the people that have retired already, and then there's the people that are working towards retirement. And let me back up and say, I don't think retirement in the sense of they're just retiring and sitting back and doing nothing. I think it's a graduation to a new vocation or to do something different. So people that have retired at age 40 or age 35 and socked away all this money, I think they're doing something that they're more passionate about and they're earning an income that way. So I don't think that these people ever envisioned, and again, you're closer to it than I am. You've actually interviewed many of these people. Of course, I know some people who are doing this, but you presumably have done a lot of research on this and talked with more of them. But I think that these people kind of look at the FIRE movement as a way to pursue your own dreams and therefore making sacrifices to do that.
Yeah, and that income might also change a little bit. A lot of freelancers have been affected by the coronavirus, causing businesses to close down or to reduce, how much they pay in marketing and content and things like that. So in that sense, those people, they might have to also adjust their plans. The most important thing, at least for people who are starting the retire portion of FIRE, right now will be withdrawing. It's important for them to have a lot more in cash and to use that money as opposed to using anything that they might have invested in the stock market, because there's that sequence of return risk where if you start withdrawing in the beginning of a bear market or something like that, you can potentially lose out on a lot of returns in the future.
Yep.
So for those people, they might have thought, well, I stocked away, because they don't do like 3 to 6 months of emergency savings. They do significantly more. They might have thought, well, I'll put that to the side. I won't touch it. I'll just start withdrawing from my portfolios. But at this moment, that income should stay where it is, so that the market can rebound, and they don't lose so much in their assets. So yeah, the people who are already retired, they do make an income from other things. Sometimes it is just their portfolio. Sometimes it's a mix of their portfolio and blogging. Sometimes it's a mix of that and blogging and speaking. But they also will probably have to make a few adjustments. Not much. It's not like they're gonna, they're not gonna be able to survive. It's just that, like everybody else who is, working or retired, they might have to make a few changes right now.
Yeah, I think it's adapting, and I think you bring up the really interesting point of view of sequencing of risk and the 4% withdrawal that we've all been talking about. And I think life is a set of learned experiences, and the beauty of retiring early is that you theoretically will live longer, and so you can adjust to the current events appropriately, and that means whether it's adjusting your budget, whether it's adjusting your balance sheet, or your portfolio or your risk tolerances that you and your team always talk about. I think it's a very adaptive group of people, and they will continue to adapt.
Yes, definitely.
And then you look at, and we're going to talk about this in the segment, separate segment, can't get it out, but also rebate checks and stimulus. That is something that can also mitigate some of the market downturns, right? A lot of these folks, even if they retired with significant money, their income may be below the threshold where they'll get checks, they'll get money, the $600, maybe they can file for unemployment. So there are some stimulus, or stimuli, maybe is the plural, right? Along the way that it can mitigate some of the sequencing returns issues.
Yeah, definitely. To be fair, the government, whenever they do that stuff, they want you to spend the money. They don't want you to necessarily save it. But financial experts will argue that, it really depends on your situation. If you are in the middle of job instability, which some fire folks may be in, you might want to save a portion of it and then use some of it towards expenses if there's some sort of gap there. But that will definitely, that money will help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Allie, I want to go to a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Allie about rebate checks and a lot more. So stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
The windows on our homes, they protect us and the ones we love, but they do much more. At Renewal by Andersen, making your home more comfortable is at the center of every window we make. It's why we custom build our windows in America and install them in as little as 1 day. It's why we build our frames with exclusive Fibrex composite material that's 2 times stronger than vinyl. It's why our glass helps keep your home warmer in winter, cooler in summer, and quieter all year long. It's why we stand behind every window with a 20-year limited warranty. Why not help lower your energy costs while giving your home and family the best? Call 1-800-835-6525 to schedule a free in-home consultation. Buy one, get one at 40% off with this special offer. Plus, get special financing with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 1 full year. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-835-6525 now.
Welcome back. We're talking to Alessandra Melito, retirement reporter for Dow Jones Market Watch. Ali, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Yeah, of course.
We appreciate it. And great conversation we had in segment 1 about the FIRE movement and the adaptability. And towards the end, we started talking about rebates and a lot of stimulus action, a lot of things going on. It's really a fluid time. We see the federal government, the legislature really passing the CARES Act to stimulate the economy. You wrote a lot of pieces this past week, and you're a very busy person along with the rest of the team about rebates. What can you tell us about rebates?
Yeah, so the rebate checks they're meant to help people who might be struggling right now. The government said that individuals who earn up to $75,000 and file single will get $1,200. Mm-hmm. And if they file married, if they're married filing jointly, they will get $2,400 if they make below $150,000. And then those amounts are phased out up to $98,000. And sorry, I'm blanking.
I think it's 100. Right. I think they phase out at 198,000 for for married couples. But that's fine. This is not a quiz. I think this is we're talking concepts here. So the audience needs to understand that.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Al. It will be phased out up to a certain income level. But really there are numerous benefits. It will help everybody who is within those income limits, and also a non-resident alien individual according to the law. You cannot be a dependent for somebody else, but if you meet all of those requirements, you do get that money. So that's good. The Internal Revenue Service, when this all first happened, said that you were going to have to file a tax return regardless who you were, and that would have affected millions of people who are Social Security recipients or just low-income individuals who do not have to file a tax return. But the IRS reversed that decision in the middle of last week. So, and in that case, low-income individuals will still have to file a tax return for now. I don't know if that might change too, but at least Social Security recipients won't have to do that. If they get an SSA 1099 form, then they are good to go and they'll get that amount automatically. So this was just one of the provisions that the government had come up with in its stimulus package to provide some sort of financial relief, because the spreading of the coronavirus has affected the U.S. economy, global economies, but a lot of Americans are feeling it at home right now because businesses are closed. They can't work in their stores. They might not be able to work at home effectively. They might have been laid off. They might have been furloughed. They might see a reduction in income, and bills still have to be paid. So,
yeah, absolutely. And the goal of these stimulus checks is exactly to keep money moving through the economy and to support those restaurants that had to cut back on, for example, seating people and are just doing takeout and delivery. Ali, this kind of is working in conjunction with a couple of other things. One is unemployment insurance, right? And there's people can, if they're working or were working or furloughed, they can, in addition to the stimulus checks, they can also file for unemployment. And then we also have these Small Business Administration. If you are a gig worker, which we're talking about in segment 1 with the fire movement, you could presumably also file for some type of small business relief as well.
Yeah, so I'm not too familiar with either of those provisions, but I do know that you have to be on your game with those two provisions because with unemployment, I am not too familiar, but a lot of people that I have heard from have said that it's been really stressful. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of phone calls, and the government is swamped right now with calls and also trying to figure everything out themselves because they didn't have that much time from the time that the law was signed to now. It's only been like a week and a half or something like that. So with that case, you might have to put in a few extra calls. You might have to sift through everything. Great. The good news is my colleagues at MarketWatch have written a lot about that. So you definitely have some experts there. And then as far as the small businesses, I did hear that, you just have to, it's first come, first serve, I think, for filing or receiving those benefits. And you have to make sure that you can prove that you needed it. Otherwise, there's like a huge fine. So that's something to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that folks can definitely go to marketwatch.com among many of the great sites. And I'm sure there's a special section dedicated to some of these other things that maybe Allie doesn't necessarily cover directly, but I think there's opportunities that exist that people need to take advantage of. And I think the expectation, we're in this lightning fast world where, you and I are talking through Skype and we're doing this interview. But, in reality, some of the state and local systems may be a little bit antiquated and they're not designed for all this. There are 10 million people that are unemployed as of the last jobs report. That may not be able to sustain all of that web traffic. So that certainly things that we're going to have to exact some patience, I think. And I think creditors and debtors on both sides will have to be patient, both in receiving money, but also, from the government or receiving money from payees, right? I mean, it's just about, we have nothing but time right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with the rebate checks, the government said that they're going to start sending them out in about 3 weeks. But there is still a lot unknown. There are many questions. And the government is also creating a portal right now, a web-based portal, so that if you don't receive money and direct deposit, usually for your tax returns, then you will get it. You will be able to sign in and put in your banking information so that you can get the money sooner. But they're just everything is still being worked out right now, so it is a matter of patience. I've been getting a lot of emails asking me questions like, what about my specific situation? Because there are cases where you earned more in 1 year and this year you don't earn that much. Maybe you retired, maybe you lost a job, something like that. So there, how much you will receive for that rebate check really, it depends if they're using a previous tax return year. So we just have to be patient with all those answers. And I'm sure that the IRS and the rest of the government is working really hard to make sure that this happens as seamlessly as possible. It's just, this is all new to them too,
Absolutely. I mean, we got to preach calm on all sides. Last question, Allie. All this movement, stimulus checks, websites, we have talked on the program, both in your segments and in other segments, about cybersecurity. And I have seen unfortunately bad actors with scams around the coronavirus. One, in terms of medication. So there's no known cure. That's number one. But also people kind of hacking in, getting people's banking information and having those things directly deposited into a different account versus the actual person who's supposed to be receiving that information. I would think that that's a concern that you've seen raised from some of the people that you're talking, whether it's a financial advisor, brokers, or people in the retirement community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially around the tax returns that people typically don't have to file, but might have to do this year. Those people, maybe this is just normal for them. They don't normally file tax returns and they haven't thought that they've had to, somebody unfortunately can scam that situation. They can go in and pretend to be somebody that they're not, and put in their banking information and get the money routed to them instead of the individual who just typically doesn't file a tax return because he doesn't have to. That was a major concern with Social Security recipients. Yeah. Because they are typically older, and that's a huge target for a lot of scammers. And as far as just in general, there are a few things that you can do. You should try to get, if you are one of the people who has to file a tax return, do it as soon as possible. Make sure that the IRS has your information and has your information correctly. If you are a Social Security recipient, go into your My SSA, make sure that all the information is attached to, is linked to your history, and is accurate for you and your banking information and address and all that stuff. Try to be proactive and make sure that whatever you have, whatever information the government will need on your behalf is yours and yours alone, so that you don't find out, 2 months later that you never got a check and the address is different than it's supposed to be, or your banking information isn't even your bank. Just things like that will help. And, also the usual, make sure that your accounts, your email and all that is secure, and stay on top of it. Don't, not saying you have to check your account every single day, but just, maybe once in a while, go in there and see that everything is on the up and up.
Yeah, well, you got to remain vigilant, but I always worry about those seniors and people that are receiving Social Security or disability. They seem to be a very vulnerable from the sense of cybersecurity. Allie, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks so much for bringing us into your home, and that's where we're chatting. And always appreciate talking with you. And stay safe, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a financial topic or someone of interest that you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Attention! The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has officially authorized new benefits that Medicare Advantage plans may include. To get the benefits you deserve, you can call the Medicare Coverage Helpline.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. If you're on Medicare, this is important information. I called the Medicare Coverage Helpline and they instantly looked up my coverage. In this one simple call, they offered to enroll me in a plan that includes rides to medical appointments, private home aides, doctors and nurses' visits by telephone, and even home-delivered meals. The plan also includes dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage, all at no additional cost.
Don't delay. Call to see if the new benefits are available in your area.
Call the number on your screen now. It's free.
Call 1-800-757-1451. That's 1-800-757-1451.